Thank you once again for joining us this week. My name remains Joy Emedom, and I'm your facilitator for the data security pathway. Um, for those who can't see the screen, I will recommend that you disconnect and reconnect back because majority of the class can't see the screen. So we have taken our time to go through a refreshers course. Now, if you're just watching this video for the first time, we will recommend that you go and look for week 1 so that you can catch up with where we are today. This is week 2, and we'll be looking at how to create and manage sensitive information types. In this learning part, we'll look at how do we recognize the difference between built-in and custom sensitive information types. How do we configure sensitive information types with exact data match based classification? How do we implement document fingerprinting, and how do we create custom keyword dictionaries? Okay, so the dashboard I had shown you before we started was the tool that you use to effect a data security and governance framework in an organization. It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to apply it, right? So back in the days, there were lots of manual processes when it came to the data management, and now Microsoft has brought a solution that can allow you. And so in that dashboard, we have what we call built-in SITs. Who can tell me what SIT is? Let me just know if people are really following or people are just nodding their head. I didn't say describe it, or just what's the full meaning of SIT?
Sensitive information types.
I like this, my class. Okay. Yeah. So, sensitive information types. And what does that mean? It means that when we hear the word information is the same thing as data. They're just used interchangeably, right? So we're saying that you have information that you have categorized into different types, and you have the sensitive ones. And in Microsoft Purview, Microsoft has helped us to create built-in sensitive information types, right? Over 300 that we can use, from financial to personal to hospital. And all of this is because global standards. Some things are global. For instance, if you're in the medical industry, some things are given. You're going to take people's personal information, and how you protect those kind of informations. If I come and I take a test, and the test reveals that I have a particular medical condition, okay, that's private information to me. Those kind of informations are classified as sensitive. If my bank account and my PIN and my PAN numbers, right, are the things that the bank has about me, those things are private to me. So the bank would not just give out those kind of. So all of those kind of things are classified as sensitive kind of information. Now, if you are not in any of this industry, don't say, oh, these things are tied to me. No, even if you are in the hospitality industry, right? If you are in the hospital, in the hotel kind of business, you have sensitive information types, right, that you deal with. If you are in the food business, I've met a lady who is into bakery. Her background is data, and then she's into bakery. She's generating lots of data. That is inside those kind of data she's generating, you'll be able to find sensitive information type. And somebody might say, Joy, bakery business, what information types do they have that is sensitive? Her bank statements should not be for everybody, right? You are in the fashion and lifestyle business, right? What kind of information is sensitive to you people? Bank statements, your account balance, all those things are sensitive information type. Now, would those kind of organizations use Microsoft Purview? You would be shocked, right? we have companies like Primark, we have companies like Pennies. All these are big brands, and they use this kind of technologies too. So don't limit yourself to say, oh, this kind of technology is only for the banks, the multinationals. No, that's why the concept is the first thing to learn before we start understanding how to use the solution. So Microsoft has given us built-ins. Now, in built-ins, this has already categorized it. In built-in, you know that okay, this SIT is for financials, this SIT is for medical, these SITs are for named entities, and inside named entities, we're looking at whether your personal names, your physical addresses, and all of that. But in custom, you help to define, or you take a you take a built-in and then you modify it, right? I'm a fan. I like simple life. Most times I like to take built-ins, then I customize, right? Because there's some things I tell myself, everybody must not know it. I don't like to worry myself about setting regex. So what I do is when I custom it, I understand the sequencing and the pattern, and then I can modify it to what I want. So in custom, it's just saying that, like, the way you customize it for yourself or for what you want to use it to do. In some instances, in custom, you also want it to be exact match. There are times that the classifiers that will help you identify your STIs might use, it's not going to be doing exact match. So when it's calling, it might say, if you see 16-digit numbers that are starting with 4 this, put it as a card details. Now, somebody might put such kind of number that is relating to something else. It will capture it, but in custom, you can be very specific, or you can say, if it's not this exact condition, then doesn't fall under this. All of these are based on the scenario at which you're trying to paint your organization. So if you are very sure that, oh, the way we invoice, we have a sequence in our number. So invoices must start with FJS. All our invoices start with FJS, and the next thing is IMV, and the next thing is 4-digit number. And now I want to capture everywhere that we have invoice, so I can push a label. You can see that I'm very sure about the invoice numbering system, and so I can create a custom sensitive information type if invoice is classified as a sensitive information in the industry. I'm in this my fictitious industry, and I can create and say it should be exact, that when you find this document, it should match this exact expression, and then classify it as this. So that's what custom does for you. You can customize it to how you want it. Now, when you're creating sensitive information types, what do you look out for? Patterns for detection, consistency of keywords, like I said, regular expressions, right? Cards will always be, I think Visa card is always starting with 4. They have this expression for Visa card, I think it always starts with 4. MasterCard always starts with, I think, 5. And it's not just 4, there's a numbering system that Visa card has, MasterCard has. So once the system is able to see that kind of pattern, it knows this is a Visa card. It's not just saying it's not just saying it's a card. It's saying, it will be very specific to say that that's a Visa type of card and this is a Master type of card. Like I gave example to patterns, you can say your invoicing comes in this way. So sensitive information types will look at primary patterns. Other things could also be, again, like you said, you could put additional evidences where you want it to be exact type. Character proximity, the way the characters come, it must start with FJS, then dash IMV. No matter where you see that document, as long as it comes in that sequence, in that character format, it is an invoice. And so those are the ways that you play around understanding the kind of sensitive information that is within your environment. And for keywords, just simple dictionary words. If it's a school, you say results. Now, the thing with keyword dictionary words is that it can be so generic, and so you have to be very careful. But there are instances, or there, if you were going to set maybe per department repository, you can now use certain keywords. For instance, if I'm checking a SharePoint library for HR, I will know that HR would always, if HR is saying payroll, payroll is payroll. I don't know if you're getting, payroll is payroll. So we could use those kind of keywords to say we're looking for anything that has to do with payroll. But in those kind of things, when you're saying, if you use something like name, if you say anywhere where you see name, it automatically means that it's employee record. It's too, that kind of keyword is too generic, because you might see name in so many places. But then you can say employee ID. So knowing fully well that everybody has a unique employee ID. So if you want to make sure that anywhere employee ID is, probably that document is classified as confidential. Just give an example. Employee ID is unique. So those kind of keywords you can use. Again, if your organization uses employee ID as the way to identify staffs. So keywords are just random words that you use to put to help you also to be able to classify, but you have to be careful, because keywords can sometimes in some instances be too generic, and so you have lots and lots of documents match that classifier. Meanwhile, it's not meeting what you really want it to be. Again, like I explained, for custom, you're now trying to customize it. You really have to have gone advanced to know how to use the custom sensitive information type, because here you'll be doing lots of if then statements. For those people who studied computer science in school and who like programming, they like this kind of thing, because they'll be playing around with words. Where this becomes very useful is some organizations have extended their data classification up onto database level, right? So not just from a unstructured data location. So we call the likes of SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams as unstructured data, while the likes of databases are structured data repositories. For you to be able to use custom type, you have to, so I've seen people extend it into those kind of levels, and it works very well, because they know exactly what they're looking for and how they want to ensure that every data in a particular table probably has this kind of encryption in it. So they create custom sensitive information types for those kind of scenarios. So what's document printing? How will I explain this? So if once upon a time they told us that they were going to give us student loans, right? In those kind of instances, they would have had unique forms that are specific for those kind of things. And so anybody who filled that form, probably the department that government would have allocated to be responsible for disbursing this form or processing the people who would have applied for the loans and then disburse it. So they would have created a form, and then they'll have a repository. In document printing and fingerprinting, if you're trying to look for those kind of things and classify them, they are unique kind of documents, right? Those kind of documents would have a template, and it's based on that template that everybody will be feeding on. Those kind of documents will not be documents where I'm creating a report. I'm on a project now, and I'm creating a report, and nobody gave me a template. Just say, "Oh, Joy, write about your cohort 5 training." And so in that report, I'm the one that will say, okay, I want to start by saying the number of students that participated, their engagement level, their experience level. There's no structure to how I'm supposed to write that report. Are you getting it? So I will write that report, and it will be a report that would have some content inside. Maybe inside that content, I'm going to be putting maybe some of you's name, where you work. I'm just giving an example, but there's no structure to it. Now, that kind of document can match so many sensitive information type classifications, because I'll be putting people's name, put maybe where people work, put maybe your age, because I just, depending on my discretion, I'll just say, oh, they want to know, but there's no structure. But in some instances, in some cases, you have a document that they say you cannot fill this without this. For instance, we're taking attendance, and they are giving you a document that you are using to fill attendance. Attendance is not taken in any other place, right? So if we wanted to scan the textile as tenant and we wanted to classify the attendance sheet as a sensitive information, I've not looked at it. So probably if in the attendance sheet we were taking your age, for instance, and age is a sensitive, or your date of birth, let's do date of birth, and date of birth is sensitive information, and as the compliance administrator, maybe we say, oh, we need to meet this regulation, or because we are a non-charitable organization, we need to meet this regulation, and the data protection says that if you are collecting this kind of personal information, they are classified as sensitive information. Now I get maybe a mail from the founder that says, Joy, please help us find out everywhere where we are creating this, right? I'm going to say, oh, what kind of documents do we use? We generate attendance form, and in attendance form, we always ask for age. So automatically, I can look for the template and use that and say, this is what you are going to use to look for. Now, every document you generate has what we call a metadata. I know some of you never pay attention when you create documents. As far as you're concerned, you've created your Word document or your Excel and you have saved it. If you go to wherever you saved your document, go to options, you will see some other parameters. In cases it will show you the author of the document, the date the document was created. I don't know if you have paid attention to those kind of details.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, so those are all the things that can tell someone that this is the template, right? And these are the products of that template. So I would take that template and I would say any other document, that is using this template, right? Is this template, once you see this template being used anywhere, automatically classify it as XYZ, because as a sensitive, based on what category that I have put, right? Because that template is what I'm using to do the document fingerprinting.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so let's watch this guided demo that will help us see how to identify. Please let me know if you're hearing my audio. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah, we can see this.
Yes.
What are you seeing on the screen? Are you seeing my slide, or are you seeing a man that is looking at a laptop?
Your guided them.
Your slide.
A slide.
Okay, all right. That's not what I want you to see. So,
Yeah, we can see.
I'll put
Yeah,
it
I
down.
see laptop now. I tried it.
you can see interactive guide, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I will play the audio, but stop, and then I need you to confirm you can hear the audio.
Okay.
In this interactive guide, you'll learn how to classify data
Can you
using
hear the
sensitive
audio?
information types, or
Yeah.
SITs,
Yes.
with Microsoft
Okay.
Purview Information Protection.
Should I increase
You'll
my
see how
volume?
information protection can help you identify sensitive
Yes,
data in your
please.
organization with pre-built and custom SITs.
So I think
To navigate this interactive guide, follow the prompts on the screen or use your forward and back. This is the Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, where we're logged in as a compliance administrator. To get started, expand Data Classification. Next, select Classifiers. Sensitive information types are pattern-based identifiers that detect sensitive items within your organization. Microsoft 365 includes many built-in types that are ready for use. Let's look at some examples. This SIT detects credit card numbers. Scroll down to review the patterns that define this type. Next, open the Microsoft Online documentation for this SIT. Here you can find definitions for pre-built sensitive information. Here are the conditions used to detect this sensitive information type. Scroll down for more. Close the documentation to return to the Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal. To review any sensitive items in our organization that match the definitions, drill into the OneDrive folder.
Now, can you see what has happened then? We used a STI that was for credit card, a built-in, right? And he scanned the environment, and you can see that he identified the different places where it saw the credit card. Sorry,
Close the documentation to return to the Microsoft Purview
let me
compliance.
take you
To
back.
review any sensitive item,
Good.
drill into the OneDrive.
So you can see that after it had scanned the environment, it saw in Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, those sensitive data. And then in each of those repositories, you can see the number of files that it was able to find when we use the custom build. Now, prior to this, it showed you, the good thing with Microsoft is that they have lots of documentation. It showed you when Microsoft explained the type of way that he used, the kind of format he uses to be able to create that built-in STI that it has put there for you to use, so that you can also understand how they even arrived at this. For those who are very curious, who will say, okay, yes, I know it's built-in, I want to use it, but how did Microsoft even arrive at this built-in for credit card, and how are they able to know the type of card system that we use in Nigeria? Like I explained, is because no matter whether it's MasterCard, whether they all have a sequence, and so that's how they were able to use. So at this point, it has identified that there's credit card in these different locations, and we're going to now drill down to see up even at the spot of, it's not just saying OneDrive, which OneDrive, whose OneDrive in the organization can it spot a credit card information.
Drill into the OneDrive folder. Select the link for the second item to view the matching SITs. These are all the sensitive info types that were identified in this document and the solution's confidence in the matches. Close the pane.
So you can see that it went as far as even telling us this. You can see this HTTPS is a fictitious, it's not a real person. But so if it was Joy, for instance, in an organization, it has said it. And it went as far as saying that it didn't just see it in my OneDrive. I have a document called Contoso Purchasing Permissions, right? And it is in this document that he saw the credit card. Now, this is where, this custom built-in is good, because like we said, as an organization, you can come and say, oh, credit card informations are sensitive, but do you know where your staffs are putting credit card information? For you to now come back and say that you are compliant, you are making sure that every credit card information is classified as confidential. You don't know. So this is where the technology, the use of Purview now is beginning to show its relevance. It's saying we can help you scan your repositories, and you can pinpoint where your people are using. So if Joy, for instance, doesn't have maybe this department that does this thing, it's not telling us that anytime they need to prepare whatever purchasing permission or purchasing data, they need to put credit card information. We will not know, and won't have classified that, won't have created. When we begin to go into data labels, and you're seeing when we are creating data labels and policy, you will see that we won't have put those kind of labels for probably that department, because our understanding is that they do not do those kind of things. Or probably who they even gave us during the project for the team will say, hey, we don't use credit card now, nothing concerns us and credit card. You don't use credit card, but probably in your interaction, in your doing maybe your reconciliation or something, you have to impute credit card information. This is where the crawlers will help, the classifiers help us find this kind of information without totally relying on the end user. Does this make sense, guys?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
All right.
You can also select the item itself to view more details. The Source tab shows the document itself. Maximize the view. Next, select Contextual Summary. This tab shows which parts of the document matched the SIT detection pattern. Next, select Details. This tab displays the document's metadata. After reviewing the information, you can confirm whether this item and the SIT are a match.
Now, guys, do you know why I like this solution? It went as far as telling us where in the document, right? The person infused the sensitive information. So it's not just saying, oh, this document, Contoso Purchasing, It opened up the document, told us the paragraph, say, see where this person went to embed. Now, the benefit for this most times is not even, I tell people, I say is, when you begin to understand how hacking is done and how people who come to organizations steal information, is when you understand how porous information can be. Because somebody can even embed something. I can want to send out. So when you're looking at insider threats, when we begin to grow and look at insider threats, imagine a scenario where Joy, I'm in finance and I'm compromised, and I need to send out information to Jonathan, who is my accomplice, right? But I don't know, they blocked copy and paste it. So I create a random document that I feel like, oh, this document, I will put it as general because I don't have, maybe I could just say, Jonathan, find our bulletin that talks about our pricing, confirm. Meanwhile, I want to embed inside it the credit card or the PAN number of a customer that I got off the system. Are you seeing it? Because when we begin to move and you see the benefit of creating data labels and data protection, which rely on these classifiers, the data label that you have created, because now we know that there's a possibility for people to create this kind of data into this, we'll find this document and sit and block it from even leaving the organization. If we have a policy that says any document that has credit card in clear text, block, it will be able to block this document even though the person has embedded it inside and the classifier that was used on the document was a general and not confidential. But because we have a sensitive information type that we have activated, that we've scanned and we've seen that people use sensitive information type across the department. So we're going to now go to our DLP policy and create a policy that will say, if you see this type of sensitive information type, block. And it's not going to have anything to do with whether the document was labeled confidential or not, because the sensitive information type can't see that there's a content inside. That's the benefit of how much of you can penetrate into a document.
Optionally, you can submit a redacted copy of the item to Microsoft along with your feedback to help improve the accuracy of built-in classifiers. For the purposes of this guide, we'll close the pane and look at some other sensitive information types. Next, search for driver's license. These SITs enable you to detect driver's license numbers in a variety of countries. Next, search for identification.
So, for instance, if we check here and we don't see a Nigeria, for Nigeria, we can now take one of these. So these are a typical example that you can use to customize. So you can take this, duplicate it, understand how they were able to know how to identify driver's license. Take a typical Nigerian's driver's license, look at the pattern. There has to be something unique about our driver's license, a sequence at which they probably issue in your license number or something, and then understand how they were able to create the STIs for these other countries. And when you duplicate, you can just modify, so you don't have to start from beginning to sort your head, because the sensitive information type, so for instance, if you're putting this in FRS, the sensitive information type you want to work with is driver's license, but they don't have Nigeria. You can customize it, understand how they created the matching conditions, and then look at our own driver's license and find that pattern there and impute it, and it will work same way. So these are somebody should do this assignment for me and give me the next class. Create a sensitive information type for Nigerian driver's license. And the person will explain to us in the class, how they did it, why they did it. And if the person has, so two things, if you don't have a tenant yet, then you might not be able to, but I know that they're going to send you guys the email before the next class. So if you can't do it, let me know. I would really want to see how many people can stretch themselves. Create a sensitive information type for Nigerian's driver's license. Okay, so let's go on.
These SITs detect various identification numbers. Clear the search box and sort the list by type. Let's take a closer look at the all. This is a bundled entity SIT, which is a type of SIT that encompasses multiple different sensitive information types. Specifically, this SIT detects credentials from all supported services and environments, which include Amazon, Azure, GitHub, Google, Microsoft General, Slack, and more. Open the Microsoft documentation for this SIT. Click the link to the first section and then scroll down to review the information.
So what this is just showing you is that if you see an SIT that is built in and you don't understand how, there's documentation for you to understand how Microsoft. So here they have a sensitive information type that they have classified as bundle. Use case that to use this is organizations that are on Amazon, Azure, Slack, and probably their developers use all these platforms to develop. Instead of creating, you can have just one matching. So maybe you want to look for codes, source codes, right, across. You can just use this built-in that talks about these are all the possible locations where this kind of sensitive information can be. So probably you are looking for connection strings that have, in clear text, the passwords or connection strings, and you know that your developers use these for platforms. This is a good way to use a bundled STI. So you're not going to be, once it scans, it will scan across all the platforms that the developers use.
This is a list of the individual SITs the bundled entity contains.
So please,
Return
where
to
you're,
the compliance
I'm
portal.
skipping a lot, but the reason why I want to use this video is so that when people are watching it
Click
on
the
their
arrow
own,
to
it
continue
can
to
be
the
making
next sensitive
sense.
information type in the list. This all full names SIT is a special bundled entity type called a bundled named entity SIT. Named entities are complex dictionary and pattern-based classifiers that can detect person names and physical addresses, as well as medical terms and conditions. This bundled name entity SIT detects full names for people from all supported countries and regions. Let's quickly review some other bundled named entity SITs. Close the pane. Next, select Content Explorer. You can use Content Explorer to review items in your organization in which sensitive information types have been detected. To look at an example, scroll down and select U.S. Social Security Number. Next, drill into the SharePoint folder. Open the subfolder. Select a link for the first. You can review the document and contextual summary to get more details. Now let's return to the classifiers page to create a new sensitive information type. First, provide a name and description.
So I'm already giving you expo for those who have to create the driver's license. So there are two things. I saw tax there, I saw driver's license. So choose any one that you want to do. We have a pattern for our tax ID Nigeria. We have a pattern for our driver's license. So I would like two classifiers, sensitive information type, people who can create for driver's license and people who can create for tax. Don't tell me you did not hear this assignment though.
Select Next to continue. Sensitive information types are defined by one or more patterns. Create a pattern.
Now, this is what makes a sensitive information type work, the pattern. And that's why I said that if you're going to be working with some kind of generic type of pattern, so for instance, driver's license, every country has driver's license, but it's just that the pattern is different. One way to learn is go and look at the built-in one and then understand the pattern, and that can now help you know how to create the one that you want without having to worry your head of doing it from scratch.
Next, assign a confidence level. In this case, we'll select medium. Next, add the primary element. We'll select keyword list.
Now, who understands the primary level is, are you using a keyword list? Are you using a regular expression? Are you using dictionary functions? Are you using, these are the method at which you want to use to find the sensitive information type. So if you use a regular, we call it regedit, regular expressions, it could be saying that if you see A, B, C, then it is this. So somebody can see A, B, but because there's no C, it's not going to call it that sensitive information type. Or you use keywords, straight word. If you see employee ID, then automatically that's the type of sensitive information that I'm looking for.
Enter an ID for the list. Next, enter the words and phrases you want the info type to detect. These can be case-sensitive or not. In this case, we'll indicate that keywords are case-insensitive.
Now, in this instance, the person is creating a sensitive information type for research and development terms. Now, because they don't have probably a template, so you can't use document fingerprinting, it doesn't have a regular pattern at which they use that word, research and development. What it has said is, anywhere it sees research and development terms, it wants to call that information sensitive. Now it has come and said that it should be case insensitive, meaning that even if the person started arrow as small letter, so that tells you that you can create classifiers that are that very distinct, and those are where exact match works. So if you know that in the environment nobody will ever do this thing without using capital C, you want to be very specific in those kind of instances. So here, because they know that somebody can type research with small r and development with small d, it has said it is case insensitive. Please, I want to know if this is making sense before we continue.
Yes, it is. It's making sense, ma'am.
Yes, it is.
Okay, please, because the whole idea is not just to this. Like I tell people, I say all this information is on the internet. The essence for the Textilers one is to bring it more home for you. So it's supposed to be a one-on-one class. Like, if it's not making sense, tell me to stop. I will rephrase and look for a way to communicate it. That's why I'm not. You can watch the interactive video on your own, but I'm spending time to use the interactive video to explain to you so that you understand the concept. So please, if it's not, don't interrupt me, and we'll go back over again till we are all happy, please.
Click Done.
Now, what they've done here is they're not even looking for the word research and development. What they're saying is that any document that has Project Olivier, Project Obsidian, automatically they want that document to be ID'd as research and development. So you know that there are some organizations that their job is just purely research, and some of those researches are confidential. So in that kind of industry, they know that any document anybody creates that has these words, Project Olivier, in any sequence, in any character size, they want automatically that document to be categorized as research and development terms, because they believe that it's tied to, that document has information that is tied to their research and development. So in this kind of instances, do you create custom classifiers?
To increase the accuracy of detection, you can specify other requirements and add supporting elements. We'll skip over those options for now. Click Create. Next, let's create another pattern that is similar to the first, but with additional supporting elements to further refine the evaluation. In this case, we'll leave the confidence level as high confidence. We'll add the same keyword list we just created.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen, but I want to ask a question, please, if that's possible.
Yes, please.
All right, from what I'm seeing from the video and from what you also explained on the show, is like you have to be an administrator, not just the user, for the Microsoft 365 platform, if I'm being correct.
Oh yes, the course we are taking is called Microsoft Information Protection and Compliance Administrator. That's what this course is.
All right, thank you. I want to verify.
Yes, an end
Okay.
user, the only thing an end user will be doing is when you are finished doing all of this, you are now doing what we call end user training, teaching people how to classify documents based on what you, the administrator, has configured. Right? So those are different trainings. Those are trainings for end user adoption and all of that. This is purely how to get an organization to utilize Microsoft Purview for them to become compliant. Does that help?
Yes, it does, because what I was seeing was on the user side, because if I'm being correct, the classifiers was not showing on the user side.
No,
That's why I
classifiers
couldn't
will not show.
confirm.
What will show when we progress, I think that's in week 3, is when we have created labels. So as a user, what
Yeah.
you'll be seeing is labels. You either be seeing confidential, depending on whatever we call the label. The basic one you see in organization is public, general, sensitive, public, general, restricted.
That's
high
after the
confidential.
administrator has done the classification.
Exactly, and now push
Alright.
the policy to whatever platform. So some people will
Alright.
push it to their Teams, push it to Outlook, push it to this. So that's what the end user will be seeing when they want to create a document.
All right. Thank you so much. I understand.
Yeah. All right. So the quick one. So in this instance, you can see that this person is recreating another classifier that is still related to the previous one. So instead of typing one by one, you just choose from an existing so that you can just quickly find that one and inherit. So these are some ways to speed up your configuration as an administrator.
There is no audio coming from the video.
I can't hear it from here either.
These expressions can be quite complex.
Yes.
But in this case, we'll
Yes,
enter a
I
simple
hear it now.
expression to
Sorry for the person who can't say apology, you might have to leave and join back or just toggle, I don't know. Because if majority can see, then it's not from my end. Now, what we're trying to do here is we're now making it very granular. Again, please, when you learn, I don't know, it works for me. I'm not in a hurry to be master. I always try to start small and grow. So it's giving us 2 scenarios where you just create a either a keyword or key dictionary word to identify. You can practice with that. But now, if you want to go very granular, and everything is based on your use case. As an administrator, you have times where the business will come and say, this is the kind of thing we want to use. What this, demo is just showing us is that no matter how the use case is, if the use case was very specific, you can customize to be very specific. However, if what you just want to do is get a visibility of what people are using in the organization, go for the simple ones, do your scanning, and then get an idea of the kind of data that exists, right? And as use cases come up, you can now choose to start customizing and playing around with this. So don't break yourself or beat yourself if you don't become an expert in one day, please. So now, can you see that? So I know that this thing might not mean anything to somebody, but regular expressions they're like programming languages. They are words that you use. They are conditions that have been created based on certain kind of documents. So in this instance, this person is saying that they have a model. So some of you are using ChatGPT today. You don't understand what has happened behind this thing for ChatGPT to be ChatGPT, right? So there could be expressions that have been put on each of those GPTs, and sometimes this is how gibberish they look. I'm trying my best to make those who are not techie understand. And these kind of things, you might ask me, Joy, how will I know? There's documents for it. You don't have to kill yourself. If for instance, if you go and say, I'm looking for an expression to help me find Visa cards, you will see the expression online. There are expression libraries that exist, right? So you don't have to kill yourself for those kind of things. And you can now use that expression. So in this instance, person is assuming that there's a product model, right, in this research and development stuff that he's trying to find. And he's saying that the first instance, all they just created was keywords, and we said that anybody that used those words in their document classify it as sensitive, and that's why they put it as medium. Now he wants to be very granular in this research and development. He's saying, I want to now know those that are using the product models. And for me to know that they're using the product models, the documents will have this kind of expression, right? Which is string match. Your expression can actually be word match. If you look at here, your expression can be string match, your expression can be word match. All of these things have to do with advanced level of document type. And I'm saying that you don't necessarily, as a compliance person, need to know how these things are. There are templates for it. So if somebody comes and says, oh, this is what we want to do, you say, okay, does your document have a form of expression? It's like when people want to do application integration, you will hear the developers begin to ask the other company, do you have an API for us? Those kind of things. So if someone comes and say, oh, I want to be able to connect so that when people go and use their OPay, they'll be able to see my service. So when you go to OPay to do your B2B, what do? You say, sorry, your B2C, you say to OPay, I have this APIs available for you to consume. And what will OPay do? OPay, in creating their service, will take that your URL and put in the application and do some UI UX customization and whatever. And then when people log into OPay going forward, they will now see that, oh, I can buy Joy hair from OPay store or from OPay app. That's how it is. But all you did as a user was just see that, oh, when I go to my OPay, I now see that they have a new product there. Oh, I can buy food now from OPay app. But you didn't understand what happened behind the scenes. So that's the same thing with doing exact regular expressions. You can say, okay, is there something unique about your document? So if a team comes and say, we're realizing that we're having lots of data leakage, this is your product, what's unique about your document? Or this is your product, what's unique about it? Or this your XYZ, what's unique? Is there something we can use that is specific to it? That's what you will now use to create the expression, right? In this instance, in this example, there's a product model that has this expression that can be used to identify, and that's what they've done here. Is that clear, guys?
Right. So can I ask quickly? So does that mean that the regular expression can be something else? It doesn't have to be a code base or something.
Yeah. So if you see that place, there was what a regular expression is, just like I said, something that is unique to that thing that you're looking for.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you just, that's why there's key dictionary one, where if you just use words like employee, almost all documents can have employee, but there can be something that is probably very unique to that document that enables it for you to say, okay, this is where it is. Because I think it's in week 5, I'll be able to show you how, if you share a document that you have enabled sensitive information type on and document label, if for instance I send you that document, right, and you're not in the organization, but I'm able, that document has, you can make a document time based. No, you're supposed to have access to that document, but I don't want you to have it after 30 days, because probably in my head we're doing a project and after 30 days you have access, and then after 30 days you come to that same document that you had access to, you find out that it will throw up an error. I don't know how many of you have had those kind of instances. It's because of this kind of strings and document tagging that are done, that a document that you could read before, after XYZ period you couldn't. So those are the benefits of this kind of thing. So people who do certain businesses, certain people can say, yes, they can see this thing, but after this period, our transaction is done. So we don't want them to be able to reference this document again.
The patterns have been created. Click Next to continue. Here you can choose the recommended confidence level to show in compliance policies. We'll keep the default confidence level and continue. Review the settings and then click Create. The SIT has been created. Click Done. Once you've created a sensitive info type, you'll want to test it with documents that match the patterns you defined to ensure that it accurately detects content matches. Let's run a test now. Search for and select the SIT we just created.
So for those who are going to be doing their test, this is another way you can practice, right? So you've created it. You can now, on your own, take the number of your driver's license or a PAN and just put on an empty Word document, save it and upload it, and you'll see if your STI matched it.
This file contains the type of information that our SIT was designed to detect. The test accurately detected matches in the Word document. Click Finish. Now let's return to the Sensitive Info Types page. You can create fingerprint-based SITs, and document fingerprinting identifies the unique word pattern in a form or template. It's fingerprint that can then be detected in other similar documents. Scroll down the page.
So like I explained, just the way your fingerprint is unique to you today, right? Even twins, it's been said that they don't have a unique fingerprint. So, sorry, it's said that they have unique fingerprints. Just the way your fingerprints are unique. It's the same way if you create a document. There's something unique about that document that if any other person creates document from it, it will leave a trail of it across it. And that's just a simple way to explain what document fingerprinting is.
This section provides more information on how document fingerprinting works. Return to the compliance portal. Now let's create a fingerprint-based. In this example, we'll create a document fingerprint based on a blank patent template. Provide a name and description, and then click Next. Next, upload the template file you want to create a fingerprint for.
So in this instance, you will always have that original document. So if you work in an organization where there are lots of templates that you guys use, like mostly you see them in document agencies, hospitals, nobody creates their own. Rather, the data people generate is always based off a template. Then it's another easy way to track. All you just need is that original template, and that template can now help you find everywhere it has been used across.
Continue to the next step. Review the settings and then click Create. The fingerprint-based SIT has been created. Now let's test the SIT we just created. We'll upload a patent document.
So you can see now that we are uploading in the test, you're not uploading the template, you're uploading somebody that's created a document based off that template to be able to confirm that your template, your fingerprint STI works.
The document matches the fingerprint-based SIT at the low and medium confidence levels. Click Finish. You can now use this SIT to detect and block all outgoing patent templates with sensitive content. This interactive guide is now complete. For more information about this topic, check out these online resources.
All right, guys. So this is one way to understand what we've been talking about around classifiers, STI, fingerprint. I want to believe that everybody has come up to speed now with that, right? Hey, my students,
Yes,
are you people sleeping? Are you people sleeping?
Well, with
No,
you,
no,
I'm
no,
with
no.
you, but I'm with you. But you made a small mistake. That's why we're all laughing.
I made a small mistake. Please tell me.
STIs and
STI.
SITs are different.
Jesus, I said STI. Oh my
Idea is
God.
needed.
Oh
No, that's
my
okay.
Thank you. See why I like this class. That's the whole essence. Tell me so we laugh about it. Oh my God. I can imagine when a random person will go and watch this video, they'll say, what is this person talking about?
So it shows that we are awake.
Yeah, so it shows you're awake. Okay, that's true,
Yes.
guys. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But is this getting you excited? So I don't know. For me, anytime I learn something new, my brain begins to think about all the places where it can be valuable. So I need to just be inhaling and thinking about, okay, whether at your job, whether at your business, whether at a family friend's business, you begin to think, okay, these are places where this can become valuable, right? It means that, some of the issues that we're having, this is it, or some of these data leaks we see online, if they had this kind of solution, they can even investigate and find out how did this information go out, because they would have been able to have some form of sensitive information types that they would have put on their documents, and they can know at what way did this go out. I don't know about every others, but those things, like even just rewatching this again, my brain is thinking, so now we've understood how to identify sensitive items, right? We've understood that even without technology, we're saying that there are unique things about our data that we are generating. And so for every data we generate, we need to classify them into sensitivity. And we're now saying that because in an organization, chunks of data are being generated that we don't have control over, we can use Microsoft Purview to be able to understand our data sensitivity types, and one of that way is through classifiers, and we have now understood how to create different classifiers, right? And also we've understood that even inside the classifiers there are different ways we can create them, and we can use document fingerprinting also for cases where we have templates that are pre-used. And at the end of the day, we can see how these sensitive information types can go around, scan, and give us in-depth insight into where our documents are. Okay? Now let's move to M365 encryption. Here, we're going to look at how encryption will help us to mitigate against unauthorized data disclosure. 1 minute. We're also going to look at how data at rest and data in transit. Okay, for those who are new, when we say data at rest, we mean data that is saved somewhere. So right now, your pictures that are on your phone are data at rest. Your documents that is on your laptop is data at rest. The moment you are uploading your picture to your friend through WhatsApp, it's true that for you, that time that you clicked upload and your friend said, I have seen it, for you, it looks very simple. In technology, that picture went through somewhere called WhatsApp. That thing that you're seeing on your phone as an application called WhatsApp has a server somewhere that is allowing that information to transfer. Because remember, you are with your phone in Ebute Meta with internet MTN. Your friend is in Canada. So you should know that that data, how come my friend in Canada? Just by using WhatsApp, right? So what happened was that you transferred information from one location to another. Now, not necessarily meaning that you transferred from Nigeria, but because first of all, the information was on your phone. Your phone is not WhatsApp server. So your phone had to move it to an application on WhatsApp, which is now sitting on wherever Facebook put it, Ethiopia, America. And it's in that place that he found out that there's another user too on WhatsApp called Joy, and he gave it to Joy. And then when Joy took it from WhatsApp server, she saved it on her own phone. So when it was on WhatsApp server, is in transit. When it is on Joy's phone, it is at rest. When it is on Ayo's phone, it is at rest. Ayo now goes into WhatsApp, does an upload. It's now in transit to me. Why is in transit? It's going through, first of all, it went through my internet, went into WhatsApp application. From WhatsApp application, it's on WhatsApp database and finding that, oh, Ayo is sending to another user called Joy. And, oh, where's Joy? And it's finding me and it's sending it to me. And when I received it on my WhatsApp, I now downloaded it on my phone. And the data now became on my phone. So when people use explicit videos, right, and they send to their people, and at the end of the day, they delete off in their brain, they think because they have deleted, if the other person has received, has it been deleted? Or they feel they've deleted from the cloud. So encryption is talking about when data is with you, when data is moving, how do you ensure that it is secured? I'm just giving this real life scenario for you to begin to play around how you play around with information and understand it. So encryption is going to show us how, when the data is at rest, how it's secured, when it's in motion is in transit, how it's secured. And I gave all of that for people who are new in tech. Different types of encryptions that are used both at customer layer, application layer, and the difference between managed keys and customer managed keys for use with certain service encryption. Okay. You can watch this video for encryption so that we speed up, right? So encryption is, making, let's look for a way. Encoding information so that it's not in plain text. Maybe encoding is a big word. How many of you had those pals? Like growing up, I had friends where we had code language. Thank you. We have parents here. How many of you, even if you don't have parents, how many of you did your mom have the mommy eye? Even right now, I do it with my son. My son knows the mommy eye. How many of you will go somewhere and if they give you food, then remember, you had to look at your mother to know if you were supposed to eat that food. That's That's encryption.
Wow. I
Yes,
think I'm an expert at that.
that's encryption because you have not said to your child, don't eat that food. You did not tell your child, don't eat that food. But your child is not eating. Neither have you said eat and your child is eating. But just because your child looked at you, your child can know I can eat or I cannot eat. So what you have done is you have communicated not in plain text, in a cipher language, in a coded language. You are going somewhere and you are telling them, this place we are going, behave yourself. Oh, I've told you. And when you reach there, you will hug the person. Oh, Mama, this, how are you? And as soon as they bring, and then your children say, no, we're fine, thank you. And everybody, you did not tell them not to eat, but they know that they should not eat. They know if they dare eat. And the one child, there's always that one child that will always act like they don't know what the is. There's always that one child that will still eat.
That's very correct.
That one child has now created vulnerability. If we want to begin to extend security, that one child has compromised data. So, but that's the simplest way for those who know who are new into tech. That's the simplest way to explain encryption, right? You are passing information, but you don't want. So today, when you are browsing on the internet, all you are just seeing is I went to WhatsApp, I went to LinkedIn, I went to this. All of those things that are happening behind this, I went to Instagram, are happening because you're on the internet and the internet is open to everybody. There's some form of encryption so that when it's transversing from one location to another location, from one server to another server, it's not in clear text. When you take your mobile app to do your banking transaction, that's why they're setting frauds. When I hear people come online, I'll be laughing. And that's why when you go to your bank cannot help you and you are vesting for your bank, but it's not your bank. You gave your PIN or you approved the transaction, but in your brain, it's my bank application. That what did you do at that point? Because the bank has made sure that from the moment you're putting your username and password and it's transversing over the internet, it's encrypted. But what have you done? You have seen one app that they told you, this app, if you download it and share with 20 people, it will help you mine this, that, and you'll be making one of your friends say, they just gave me $20. So no, because everybody's under pressure, you now download the app. Meanwhile, the app harvests data behind the scene. And as the apps, as you are putting your username and password in your banking, the app is harvesting your data. As somebody uses this somewhere and makes a transaction, and you go back to the bank and say, but I didn't give my username and password to anybody. Well, you use this bank, and I always laugh at people. I say, first of all, your usage is faulty. When we do certain investigations, we always end up finding out these things, and then you see the people, feeling sorry with themselves because they've lost money. So I'm just explaining that encryption is how we ensure that when information is moving from one place to another, so that it's not altered, so that information is not tampered with. Remember, for those who have done cybersecurity foundation, you know what we say: confidentiality, integrity, and accountability. You want to make sure that the integrity of the data is as it should be from the point where from when it leaves one location to another location. And so that's where encryption comes to play. And that's the same thing we do with data security. You want to control access to who is using what on a particular machine, and you want to differentiate between when the data is at rest, like I said, when it's on your phone and when it's in transit, right? So that's why you see WhatsApp tell you every conversation between you and this person is encrypted. So at the point where you say, it was when I shared my explicit video with this person on WhatsApp that it got compromised, WhatsApp removed themselves and say, no, when it's passing through us, it's confidential, it's encrypted. But when it landed on the receiver's phone, we're not responsible for the person's phone, how the person keeps data. So it comes back in clear text, in clear images to the person, and then what happens? You get compromised. So two types of ways you can see: data at rest, files that you save on your computer, like I explained, files on your phone, documents you have saved on your OneDrive, on your SharePoint, documents on your email. The moment they land into your inbox, the moment they are on your documents in your Gmail, they are at rest. The moment that the documents and files are being accessed from an online platform. So you're not the owner of SharePoint online. You're not the owner of Exchange online. But the moment it's there and somebody is accessing it live, not local copy, then it's in transit. Like I explained, it's on WhatsApp, live on WhatsApp, and somebody is accessing it. Person is not accessing it from their phone. So have you seen where you can put a setting on your WhatsApp, right, where you don't want pictures to automatically download on your device? Right? And so what happens after a period of time, that document will tell you it has expired. How many of you have seen those scenarios? Somebody sent you a video or a document or an image, and because you didn't see it on time, it gets expired because you have, to manage your data and to manage your system space, you have got to put a setting that says that this thing should not download. Now, when the person sent it to you, it did not download. It stayed. So at that moment, it's still in transit. It's with WhatsApp. Right? But the moment you open it, save it on your system, it's now on your system. So even if you think you're going to WhatsApp and clicking on WhatsApp to open it, it's actually local on your phone or wherever you're using to consume that service. But when you enable those settings and you don't click on, it's on there. So that's why they time it, because they cannot be keeping lots and chunks of data that does not concern them. So you see that it's time based. When you go back and click it to say this thing has expired, tell the person to resend you, because they have policies that keep things in transit, how long they can stay, and so that's how they take care of their own encryption. I hope that helps somebody understand. So, not too much emphasis here, because like I said, there's an expectation that you should have had some level of information protection knowledge or Microsoft 365 knowledge before here, so I'm not going to spend too much here. But what's BitLocker? BitLocker is the technology that Microsoft uses to do is encryption at rest. So for those who have genuine Windows operating system, so you're using Windows 10, if you have genuine one, you will see that you have the ability to create BitLocker. What does that do? It allows you to be able to encrypt your hard drive. Once upon a time in my lifetime, I extensively used to work on projects where we encrypted the hard drives of the institution, just so that when people, in case, they were due to the high robbery insecurity incidents, people were losing official systems, and we needed to ensure that even if people took these official systems and went to Tigba and sold those laptops, the company data was safe. So unless they had the username and password of the organization, so typically what you see them do would be to format the hard drive, and that was okay for us. As soon as they formatted the hard drive, that's fine, because we have encrypted it. So even if they had username and password even if they try to crack the username and password and they crack the administrator, it will not allow them, because we have encrypted the hard drive. So the only way was for them to slave the hard drive and then format it, wipe off everything and use it. And that was it. So we had that kind of incident response setup, and I was in that team forensic where we made sure that all hard drive had a form of encryption, because there was high insecurity in the country, and people needed to still move with their life. It was in the peak of COVID period, where people needed to take devices home. People were living in locations where it's not their fault, that's where they can afford, but there was high increase of robbery and theft. But the organization need to protect its data, and so when we put encryption on those hard drive, when people will complain my this thing, IT, they will come back to us and we would assure them that drive was encrypted up until that point where they were robbed. So the company, the asset team and liability teams could be able to have some insurance to know that, okay, the people that stole it will only just wipe. So the loss was on the value of the laptop and not on the value of the data that was there, because we could assure them that it was encrypted. So that's what BitLocker does for you. So don't try and kill your head too much, right? When you're doing BitLocker, just understand there are people that's their field, encryption and protection. So for you in data security, you're not going to do, in fact, even inside this information protection, there are people that will master the encryption side of things, and that should not be your headache for now. As for those who are elementary, if we have the senior guys too on the call, then they are the ones that can be worrying about, okay, they've understood labeling, they don't want to spend time in understanding encryption, because like I said, everything is based on use cases. If you go and work in places like FBI, embassies, places that are very deep on sensitivity, then you want to understand how to use encryption for those kind of use cases, right? So what are the type of encryptions that we have? We have service encryption, Azure RMS. RMS is Right Management Service, and the SMIM type of encryption, which is Secure Multipurpose Internet Mail Extensions, right? These are the type of encryptions that you can use. Again, I said I'm not going to draw too much on that, but there are ways that you can use this type of encryption to secure data. We also have the customer key management. Again, this is a case where you are exchanging information using some form of key management that is unique to you. Again, read for the exam, read, practice. So when we do practice exam questions, you understand. So that's why you see these ones don't carry, their questions are not the high volume questions, because these are very specific skill sets that you have to build when you're learning this. But just to understand the concepts that you can exchange keys. So what are keys? In the encryption that we do. So we said eye contact. So what do? How do your kids know that that eye that you gave was eye to eat and eye that you gave was eye not to eat? That's an encrypt. You have encrypted the message and you have done some form of key exchange, right? So it's the same thing even with house. So in your house, somebody can know your house, right? But cannot necessarily enter your house. Thank you, Ayo. Yes. So in key exchange, we have what we call public key, private key. Somebody can know your house, but cannot necessarily have the key to your house. You can have somebody. Are there instances where you've had people live with you, but you still did not give them the key to your house? You agree with me? There are instances where this person is living with us, but that person does not have key to the house. The person only accesses the house when either with somebody, but they are living with you. We've had cases. So that's where you see key exchange. So key exchange is another example you can see for key exchange is somebody is in our house, but they can only go to certain rooms. Thank you. Janet jinx. I just said rooms and your chat pop exactly. Somebody lives in our house, but they can only go to certain rooms, right? So it's okay. You can be in the house. Yeah, we have accepted you, but you can't enter mommy and daddy's room. Mommy and daddy's room is not where. So by the time your children, I've seen cases where, did you enter mommy and daddy's room? Why did you enter mommy and daddy? Nobody enters mommy and daddy's room, you know. So that's how it is. So that's what key exchange is. So for that person to do that, that person has probably come and take permission, right? Or that person has to be called that. Maybe mommy has to say, oh, Joy, and then Joy now comes in. So permission has been given, and that's where key exchange. So key, just like you use key to protect a door and grant access in encryption, keys are things that you exchange. So we have private keys, we have public keys. Public keys are, I have made it available because I cannot control how many people want access to me, but I've said, okay, everybody take. But private keys are very specific. I want to discuss with only you. And so I'm saying, take this key anytime me and you want to talk. We will code our language like this, and then we will talk. And so when we are decrypting it, this is the key you should use to open the door so that you can see what I told you that I coded, and then you open it back and lock. How many of you have cases to where, because you don't want to give all the children keys, or there's no way to give all the children keys, what do? You guys have a location where you keep the key. Growing up, we had this kind of scenarios where my parents would keep the key somewhere. And all of us that were family knew that the key was there. We did it even most times because my dad used to misplace his key. So it wasn't necessarily my dad, as strict as he was the one who did not know how to keep key. So he would always lose his key. So because of that, there was one key kept somewhere that everybody in the house knew where that key was. Only us in the house, right? But, you know, it could be seen as a public place. If a stranger came to that our location, they could have access, but because they are not in the conversation, they don't know that there's somewhere there where that key is. Only we in the family know that that's where that key is, and that's how we exchange. Because so when we go there and take the key, we can open the door and enter into the house. So that's the most simple way I can use to explain key management using customer key. So where you exchange communication with keys. The reason for this is just so that when you start encrypting your data, depending on you, because everything is about use case, you understand, okay, with this customer, this is how we are dealing, or with this client, this is the kind of information we are dealing. So we need to use an encryption kind of method. And then in that encryption kind of method, you now need to say, what kind of key exchange are we going to be doing, right? So an example of data in transit, again, is a client machine communicating with a Microsoft server. I gave you an example. You sending your information, uploading to somebody else in WhatsApp, and it passes through WhatsApp server. When another server talks to another server too, that's information. So WhatsApp server that they point to Nigeria and WhatsApp server that they point to another country, when they're exchanging information, is in transit. And then also, when you are moving your information, have you tried to send that? You're sending from your TikTok to WhatsApp, or you're sending from your Instagram to WhatsApp, or you're sending from this. What you are doing is that you are doing data in transit, right? It's the same thing. So Microsoft Server to a non-Microsoft Server. The reason why I'm using social media is that that's what a lot of people are so conversant with. And I want you to understand that we in the corporate world, because we talk corporate, doesn't mean that it's not that same ideology that is used when you are doing some of all these end user solutions that you're using. So it's the same backend technology that is running, right? And that's why you have friends, families working in these companies. That's what they are doing, the same thing. So in this instance, when we say Microsoft server communicating with a non-Microsoft server, and we're saying your Exchange Online email, which is your email server, is the same thing as me saying that you went to Instagram, you saw a video, you wanted to send it to Joy, and you don't know Joy's Instagram, and you want to send it to Joy on WhatsApp. You are communicating from one server to another server. That's data in transit. Okay, so we're going to look at how to configure Microsoft Purview message encryption for end users, and we will implement one. Again, please watch this video. Please try your best. That document I put, watch all the videos. You can see the interactive session that we used, how it made it very clear. I give it to Microsoft. They know how to make things very clear, right? So watch the videos, and it will help you identify where you are not understanding, so you can write your questions for the next class. So we have default configurations. We have also customization. And Microsoft has created what we call templates, information rights management and rights management templates that you can use for configuring your encrypted message. Also, when you're configuring this message, you can actually also brand it, right? You can actually also brand your messages. Just to add, please fill the attendance form, because it's the attendance form that they are going to use to send you that email that will give you access to the lab environments, please. And if you remember, during the notice period, for those who are joining today for the first time, is the attendance that they get today matching with what they've gotten from yesterday and today that they will use and send. So if you don't see your name on the attendance sheet today, even if you joined last week, if you're not here today, then I think they will consider you, but they will prioritize those who have joined today, because it means you are consistent and you want to join a project team. And that email is also what will tell you your project team. So please fill the attendance form today. Please try. Okay, so this is a typical example about a message that has been encrypted. They're just trying to tell us that you can customize it. You can remove Microsoft branding, put your own. You can put expiration date, and you can customize it to different groups. Use cases here are, where individual departments want to encrypt messages. I've had a case where whenever the CEO sent a message, that message must be encrypted. I've been in organizations where we had to create that kind of. So we created a policy that as long as it is coming from the CEO's mailbox, we had classified it as a sensitive information. It did not matter who it was sending it to, but as long as it was coming from the CEO's, it was encrypted. So what that does is, if somebody was going to send a phishing email, right, to the organization and just brand CEO, the culture that we created in user awareness is that if it doesn't have the encryption, it's not from the CEO, because we had put in place that every message from the CEO to anybody in the organization. So what that did for that organization was that it helped them in cases where there was email phishing and spoofing, where people would, say, oh, the CEO sent message to the chief financial officer to XYZ transaction. In that kind of thing, that spoofing email will never be encrypted. And so if that CFO was cybersecurity aware of the cybersecurity culture of his organization, right, he will know that this message that came to me, even though it's carrying CEO, and he is not able to see that they have spoofed the email or whatever, he will see that it's not encrypted. So it definitely didn't come from our system and didn't come from the CEO. So in those we have scenarios like that where you put, encryption. In some organizations, is if a message is going from country A to this country, in every organization, each countries are being classified as sensitive, red, green, and all of that, right? Because of what we're seeing in the world today. So in those kind of instances, you can say if somebody is sending information from here and the recipient is in this region, automatically encrypt that message. Because why? Probably that region is known for high, cyber attacks. So you want to encrypt because they will not have the key to be able to decrypt that message. Or some people will say, in cases where I need to revoke, or in cases where I need to send to an external. So you can see this last one saying that when you send to an external, expire after several days. So there are use cases like that. So depending on what the use case is, you have the ability to be able to create that response or that level of data encryption to address that use case. Any question? Must finish this slide today. It's 30 minutes and we are done. Please. Okay, so we're moving to labels. What we learned before was sensitive information types. We're saying that our information types have different. Now we're now creating label. What is label? I have orange juice in my fridge, but this one is Chivita orange juice. This one is Chi Exotic. This one is which other brand? I'm still on Nigerian juice. Sorry. But that's it, right? That's the label. I have milk at home. This is Peak Milk. This is Cowbell. This is Nunu. Those are what? Labels, right? So while you are generating data, you want to label your data, right? So labels let you classify and protect, because when you label them, then you can know how to protect them. So you've already said that, yes, they are sensitive information, but you want to give them some form of label. If you remember on the demo we saw, you can see that there were labels already on them. You saw the place where it said high, medium, all right? Yeah, so that's what we're looking at, right? Labels. You want to put some form of labels. Labels will also help you do the kind of, it's labels that will help you say, oh, this data is going to this region, so we need to encrypt it because we've labeled the data. So just like the example I gave, I have detergents at home. This is Omo. This is Mama Gold. Those are labels, right? And labels help you to customize. You can say highly confidential, personal, general. Labels help you to be persistent in the policies that you have. So because you could say as long as it is carrying restricted, this is what it needs to be done. Right? And labels help the protection that you apply be consistent across that document. So I think there's a brand that says if you know be this thing, you know if you be this thing. There's a brand I can't remember. I think if you know be, there's a brand that has that slogan. If you know be this, then you know be this. They have that kind of saying. So that's it. That brand is trying to tell you that if it's not this thing, it can't be it. So you can call them, you can say that they are detergent, you can call them, but if you know be them, they are not them. So that's what labeling does. It helps you to be consistent. And you can also do what we call auto labeling. You can also do auto labeling. You can say, okay, because I know that some people will not hear what, because I know that users are the greatest weak points in every organization. So labels will help you do auto labeling. Because you have labeled data, you can now say, as long as you see this data leaving the organization, enforce encryption or do this or do that. It's because you have labels on your data. So all of those things are what, and recently with Copilot now, labels help you. So the good thing about why, for those who joined our first class, where I said why this skill set is becoming on high demand, is because of the use of Copilot. Now, for those of you who know Microsoft 365 Copilot, right? Microsoft's own ChatGPT that enterprise organizations are using. So because when you use the general ChatGPT, you have some NDAs and MOUs that you have signed with clients. So organizations cannot really use ChatGPT to do certain kind of organization because they will be giving the language model sensitive data, and that way they'll be breaching the compliance and governance. So what did they do? They buy Microsoft's Copilot, which is also on chat. You know that Microsoft funded ChatGPT, so Microsoft's Copilot is building on all of that. And Microsoft's Copilot 365 does not use your data to train the language model. So what it can do is that it will use that same AI technology and machine learning to go and feed information based on everywhere you have access to. So what sensitivity label does is, if we label a SharePoint site and say that this SharePoint site is called highly confidential, and I put on my ChatGPT, for instance, and I say, give me the cost of marketing and branding for a FCMG, right? Now, Copilot wants to go to all our repository to take that information and show me the cost. Now, Copilot is seeing a particular repository that has details of that, but that SharePoint is saying that it's highly sensitive. When Copilot is responding to me and saying that, this is 4 naira per page or something like that, and he got it from there, it would not just put it in clear text. It's going to blur it and then reference the site and say highly sensitive. So once that, the moment I'm reading that as a company, I'm becoming aware that ChatGPT Copilot has gotten that information from a sensitive location for me that I have access to. So it means that I probably shouldn't just take that thing verbatim and go and give it to somebody. It means I should say, what's our policy around this kind of sensitive information? Versus it will just respond to me and I just copy and paste because I didn't know that was a sensitive. So it could be that probably that pricing was given to that client based on a unique scenario. And now I'm looking for pricing to give somebody, and I don't want to stress myself. I just say, give me pricing for marketing for FCMG, so that maybe my client is on the call and I want to say, our price is between 6 naira to 7 naira, and I'm seeing a response that says 4 naira. I cannot go and say 4 naira because it's so sensitive. So automatically I'm aware that there's something around this information that should not even go out. So I can know that, okay, maybe I should not use this information to respond. That's how Purview is now helping organizations utilize AI. And Copilot, for those who don't know, Copilot is Microsoft's own artificial intelligence for organizations. And that's why Purview is becoming of high demand now, because organizations want to adopt artificial intelligence, but they want to make sure that they are secure. And this is how you help them. So you're helping them build a data governance lifestyle so that they can use Copilot. So that's why it says that Copilot will integrate with to maintain your data protection during your AI assisted tasks. Any questions? Okay. Okay, we've looked at this. Yeah. So now we want to create sensitivity labels, right? What do you want to do? First thing, you want to know what name you want to give it. Please, Microsoft Learn is there, but to just run through, it's very simple. You want to say, what name do I want to give this label, right? Where's the scope? When we talk about scope, we're talking about where should I apply this label? Am I going to apply this label on PowerPoint? On Power BI, on SharePoint? Where is the data assets that I want to apply this to? Do I want to set some form of encryption or content marking? So do I want to say watermark? I want to say any document that is with this, you should just have confidential on it automatically. Or do I want to enforce encryption? Do I want to say anybody that is with this label should have auto labeling? And then for the sites and teams, do I want to exclude certain type of files when they are found in this location? And then for databases, right, you can now also use Purview, where you can say, okay, this is the data map, enforce this label into there, and then you review, and that's it. You've created your label. Let me open my tenant and see if I'm able to create label. Okay, we can create label. Let me share the screen. Let me know when you see my screen that allows us to create label. Okay, let me know when you see the screen that says labels.
We can see it, ma'am.
Okay.
That's it.
So yeah. So this is it. Still on Microsoft 365, you come to the information protection labels and you just say create label. I can call this, I can call it anything. All of this thing is just Ephesians and so on. And then I say next. Please, are you following? Now here, this is where we want to apply the labels, right? So if I uncheck this so that we can go through here, I can say I want to protect files created in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and more. So I want to protect in email. I can say I don't want it in email. Okay, are you seeing it? I can say I wanted it only. I just want only when we create Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and more. That's when we should use that label. Or I can say even when we create emails, but I don't want meetings. Or I can say even with meetings, right? And or I can check this. No, that's it. And then next, this protection control who has access and view. I can say I want to apply content marking. So this is where I want to put watermarks, footmarks. Again, don't just assume as an administrator. When the demand comes, sit down and have your checklist. So in my early days, as in my career, what I used to do was I'll create my checklist. When I learn this kind of solutions and I'm proposing to my CISO, I have a checklist. So when people come and say, oh, we've had this kind of too much fraud in this department, I say, okay, we need to do this kind of thing. I say, this is a checklist. What type of data do you deal with? Do you want the documents watermarked? Do you want the documents not watermarked? Who has access? All of those things are what you will now use to now come back here and then configure, right? I'm using a touchpad laptop, so small thing, it will be showing itself. All right. Assign permissions now or let users assign permission when they apply the label, right? So this is assign permission now is I'm forcing it, right? Or let users assign is I want when users create a document, it will now pop up and tell them, oh, you have not even assigned, right? Now this is where encryption comes. In Outlook, I can say force do not forward, encrypt only, or I can come and say in Word, PowerPoint, and it's going to prompt users to specify permissions. Now this one is I have put a label. Who has, you can see I said access control, but if I went back here and removed this, I think that won't ask me exactly, right? So we haven't gotten to the access control side. We're just learning label, but it's in the label side that you now put control of what the label will do. So I can just create a label and say I'm not putting any access control on the label first, right? I'm just creating a label and that's it. And then I can, so it's not asking me because I told it here that I wanted content marking, right? That's why it's bringing this for me and saying I should add content marking. And do I want watermark? I hope we know what content marking. So have you seen those documents that will have confidential across it or that will have draft? You know the way people will create content on social media and they will put their name so that anywhere you see that video, you will know that they are the originators or the ones that own that video. That's what content marking is. I had to use something that people are very familiar with, right? So when you see some of all these videos, they will now put their name. And especially most people that are monetizing their pages now, when they are the original people who own something, they content mark it so that any other place where you use that video, even if you are going to propose it, people will see that you are not the original owner. So that's what this is. So you can choose to want to content mark a document, especially if a document is in draft. Most people do it for draft documents. So, and that's why you have to be careful when you're using content marking, because if it goes and matches all documents, you just see everybody's document in the company carrying that content marking. So you have to be very careful when you're creating your labels. You have to know where we're applying this thing. But I'm just showing that these are things that are doable. You can auto content mark a document. You can say it should be at the footer or you should just add a watermark. You can customize what the watermark should be like. I can say, and I can choose the way I want the font color to be. How do I want it, diagonal or horizontal? Depending on, that's why I said it's all on your use case. Whenever a case comes, sit down, understand the use case, create your your plan, your implementation plan, and build. This is auto labeling, where you are saying, okay, by force do it, don't wait for them, or when. So this is where you say automatically, or recommend that users apply the label, so that if I say going forward all documents have to carry this, but I don't want to still force it, or I want to force it, I can recommend. This is where you put that setting, and then what you display to the users, or you leave it with a blank, right? That's it. And that's it. You review and you've created your label. So that's why I said label is per use cases. You can have this use case as a department, you can have it organization wide, you can have so many. We had a label that as long as it's CEO, so you can call it CEO label. Whatever the use case, you can create as much labels as you want. No, I think there's a limitation per tenant, but the limitation is still very large. But you need to sit down, understand the use case of a label, and then you can now create, and you can see that there are different ways you can play around with that label. And that's all. We've created a label, and so we can publish the label. Any questions so far?
No, it looks interesting.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so let's progress to Miriam's hand is up. Miriam, we are go ahead while my screen is loading. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, I have a question, but no.
Pardon? Should we go ahead? All right.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
So I have a question, but it's not exactly relative to what we just did, but I don't know if I can still ask. It's still around what we are doing.
Okay, can you hold on so like quickly? We have just 10 more slides. Let me finish.
Oh, that's fine. That's
yeah.
fine.
Okay. And then once we finish creating the label, the next thing is to publish the label, right? I'll explain and then I'll go to the labs. We publish the label. What do we do? When you want to publish, you're just saying, I've created this label, but I've not told the label to go to everybody in the organization. So what you just did was at the back end, you told it what to do, but everybody in the organization will not see. So when you publish, is now when it will go out to everybody. And in publishing, you'll be specifying whether it is users or groups. And the good thing, like I said, you can have pilot users. So you can test all of this with selected users in the organization, see how it behaves, do your UAT, test scripts, get it signed off, and then you now start rolling it out bit by bit. You can also choose other labels, can even have order. If you have conflicting labels, maybe because they're applying to several departments, you can say which one is priority over another one. And then you can now have encryption on labels. Encryption, again, like we've explained, what you should do when is a particular kind of label. And for auto labeling, it is how you enforce these labels based on conditions, right? There's two sides. We have the client side and we have the service side. So service side is, you can say, for things like Office, Microsoft Word, Excel, and for server side is SharePoint, OneDrive, Exchange. You can have auto labeling directly on the service side. You can say if anybody creates this kind of SharePoint site, by default you should have, or we can say the moment anybody is creating a SharePoint site. So we have organizations that will say nobody just creates SharePoint site. So if you want to create a SharePoint site, you have to raise a support request. And so automatically, when the support team is creating the SharePoint site for you, it automatically put a label. Remember, because now AI, or companies are using AI. AI is going to feed from everywhere you have access to. That's why auto labeling is now becoming on high demand. So people will not just create repositories that they are storing company information. And then when the AI is going, the AI will see that, oh, you have access to this repository and it has this data. It will feed it out for you. So people are going to be seeing information that they don't require because they've done wrong user access. So two skills that are on high demand now is data security and identity and access management, because people need to know, where do you have access to? People are using AI. The AI is not intelligent to know that Joy should not have access. As long as the AI sees you have access, which your organization did not even know you had access before, it will go there and feed information out for you and give you. So if you have cases where people created sites and gave sites to a group and say everybody in finance, and the CFO is not patient enough to know that he's storing executive directors' financial transactions in that location, but he just assumes that he's the only one seeing it, right? He's not paying attention. And I'm a junior finance person in the team, and I come and I'm using AI because Gen Z, I like my work to be easy. Use AI. It will go to everywhere I have access. Now, because I'm a member of finance group, I automatically have access to that place. But I didn't even know too, because I was not doing anything. Now AI will help me bring out that I now know. So those are where you hear us say responsible AI. We have to get AI to fit well, and how we get it to fit well most times is by doing the right thing. And that's where this whole data governance thing is becoming a big deal now, because I did information protection 5 years ago, right? But it's becoming a big deal now because artificial intelligence is coming up, and organizations want to use artificial intelligence because it's driving innovation, but they need to ensure that their data is not going where it needs to go to. So auto labeling is now a way that we can use to enforce and say, if you create a SharePoint site, automatically classify it as confidential or this. So that way it will effectively begin to take the policies that are tied to confidential label. That's another way to do auto labeling. Okay, we'll look at that too. The dashboard will also show you the user metrics, activity, interaction reports, trend analysis. That's the good thing about the dashboard. You'll be able to see data that have been classified, the labels that are used, who is using them, who has access to what. And this is where we talk about data management strategy, right? You can use this to understand, gain visibility into how your data is being used and the labels that you have applied, and how these labels are classifying documents. Once you have created your label, right, you now want to, and you have published them, and you have configured auto labeling, you want to now apply them, right? And you can apply them inside Office apps, you can apply them in Teams, groups, SharePoint sites, even in meetings, right? And you can extend information protection to on-premise data. So if you have file servers that are still managed on premises, you can use you can use information protection to extend to those locations. First of all, for you to be able to apply this, the users must be using, you understand, the latest version of Office on Windows and on Mac. So even if your organization is a end user Mac driven organization, it doesn't mean that you cannot use information protection. I know a lot of people, especially people in the creative industry, we don't use Windows devices, and they're one of the greatest people that can so abuse data. People in creative industry, they don't like when you want to restrict them because they want when they want to take it. But when company is paying sanctions, I've worked again for an organization that was advertising media, and their international body paid heavy sanction because somebody, a junior creative, was excited that they had won a bid, but did not see that on the condition of the bid that you're not supposed to talk about this thing publicly for the next 2 weeks. The young chap was excited, went out and shared data that they have won this bid, and the competitor company, he told someone that told someone that. That's how competitor company found out and was reaching out to another person to say, we heard you guys have closed this bid, and we didn't win. And they were worried that, how did you know? And trace, they found that. So I think by saying you have to be very careful wherever you're working, the amount of information that you give. But two things, if they had a data culture there, thought maybe this junior guy would have, understood the implication of what he or she was doing, or if they had data security too, that would have done certain things, that kind of contract. But anyway, in fairness to him, it wasn't necessarily the document he put, it was someone that was sharing information with him, so it was word of mouth, and then excitement, the person, did a screenshot, which we're getting to where there's some things technology cannot solve. But I'm just calling out that when you begin to put this culture in your people, they understand the implication of some of these things that they do, that you're not just trying to frustrate life. Is governance and compliance, and as you interact with businesses with certain organization, and that's how that deal was pulled out from that organization and they lost it. And I'm not talking about deal of 1 million or 2 million. This is deal of over 100 million just because of one mistake. So you can apply this even for people who are not using Windows devices. So this is not tied to Windows devices, right? You can apply sensitive labels to Office apps, whether they're using Mac or they're using Windows, and even if they're using Word document, Excel, or Open Excel, but I think it's no more supporting Office 97 2000, these old versions of Office document. Now you can also apply to teams, right? So people are chatting in teams, right? You can apply sensitivity label to team because we've seen cases where people, like I said, in this instance, this person even took it also outside the corporate app. The person was chatting on WhatsApp, but organizations have found out that okay, even within our organization, we need to control what people are sharing, and so that's why Microsoft has extended. Back in the days, this never was available. So these are some of the new features. Now you can on Teams put sensitivity labels, or on groups put sensitivity labels. So if you're working on a sensitive project, right? So you're a normal staff and they've roped you into a particular project. That project is sensitive. The moment they are creating the Teams channel for you guys to collaborate, they can apply sensitivity labels to that channel so that whatever you guys say there remain confidential and cannot be shared or taken out or printed out. Some of those restrictions can be put there. There are certain instances where people are called to do high classified projects that they don't have to talk about or share information with anybody. So you can use sensitivity labels in those kind of scenarios. The same thing with meetings, right? We've seen cases where people have taking the transcript from meetings. And again, like I said, all of these new features that Microsoft is bringing is because of Copilot now. So you know that Copilot has this cool feature. Once you turn it on in a meeting, you don't have to, like, if you're not using that feature for taking minutes of the meeting, you are on a long thing. It's one of the most coolest things of Copilot. You finish a meeting, it would transcribe that meeting. It would create the minutes of the meeting in clear action items, clear out. Now, the challenge with that is that if there's no sensitivity label on that meeting, if it was a confidential meeting, someone can take that information and forward it to someone to say, oh, see what we talked about and all of that. But it's a feature that helps you improve on productivity at the highest. I don't know about people, but I hate taking minutes of the meeting. Like, don't put me in any place that I have to be the one to take minutes of the meeting. I don't like that minutes of the meeting thing. But because I have this finicky behavior of, did I capture everything well? So I just keep rereading analysis paralysis. It affects me. So Copilot just summarizes everything, and in clear, you tend to see action points, what you need to do. So Microsoft has extended that you can put sensitivity labels on meetings, just so that when you are beginning to use Copilot, you can say, oh, this is a confidential meeting. This is a meeting between senior executives. Like they've done, maybe the executive EA has taken minutes of the meeting. She needs to be able to know, because automatically that sensitivity label will control the minutes of the meeting, right, and transcript. So depending on where the person is sharing it, the policy that you have put will automatically apply. So that's the good thing about this. These are all cool new features that Microsoft just introduced. They were not there prior to AI, the introduction of Copilot. Now, because Microsoft knows that some people still have on-premise server, right? An on-premise server. Remember, for those who joined last week, and if you are new in tech, I explained to you what on-premise means. On-premise is that an organization is the owner of a location or co-locating, but the owner of managing that information that is there. Meanwhile, in cloud, you are not worried about where this location is. You're just managing, you're just consuming the service, for lack of a better way to explain it, right? So companies that have a server sitting somewhere and they have put data inside there, but they want to still consume this data, Microsoft allows you to do some form of extensibility, right? And we can use information protection scanner to be able to scan those locations and to index those flyers. And when it does the indexing, it can still apply the sensitivity labels. This alone is a project on its own. So you can have an organization say, what do we do, about our on-prem? You have to do a whole design architecture implementation to get this done, but it's doable, and you can extend this license that you have to benefit that kind of organization. Any questions so far? And finally, how do you do this? Is, like I said, it's a whole project on its own where you run what we call the information protection scanner, and then you point it to certain point it to the locations, and then you'll be able to do the scan and give you feedback. So let's just do this quick knowledge check, and then I'll go back to show you how to publish the sensitivity labels, and that will be all for today. So question: which of the following define what to do with data that has been classified?
Policies.
Good. I saw your policies. So remember, before you the process of classifying, you needed to know your sensitive information types, right? And once you have known them, you now label them. So sensitive information types is where you're doing the classification, and after you did that, you now label them based on your classification. So for you to now define what that thing is to do is based on the policies. So that's good. Which of the following items enables you to prevent unintended sharing of documents created from official company templates? Good, Ayo. So the keyword there is templates. Remember, so that you know, because somebody will say, all of them are ways that we can, identify documents. And yeah, so you can use keyword dictionary, you can use proximity indicators document, but because it said company templates, remember, document fingering is tied to templates. If you want to restrict access to a file, you need to configure a sensitivity label with which of the following? Correct.
Encryption.
Yes, encryption. So marking content, like I said, it's just, that's why I use that social media, just putting a label that is telling you that, oh, this, you're the originator of this document, or this document, this is the unique thing about this document, right? Guest access, no, that's not it, because we're not restricting this to guest access. What if within the organization you don't want certain people to have it? But encryption, like we explained, is a way that you it's the way that you code a message so that somebody else cannot understand what is in that message unless the person has been given access to it, either through the key or exchange method that you both have agreed. And so that's encryption. All right. Any question? So on our PDF, we've covered week 1 now using 2 weeks, and that's fine. I just broke it down into 5 weeks. We have, I think, 6 weeks to do the class, but I put in 5 weeks because I knew that 1 or 2 places. By next week, we'll start going, deep and deep more into this. But we finished week 1. Please make sure you do if you look at the PDF I put, let me publish it so that people can understand better. For those who have not seen, so that when you see the PDF, you will understand what we are doing. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Please, this is the PDF I'm talking about, right? So we finished up until here. So from next week, we're now going to be looking at implementing data loss prevention. Click on this link. If you don't have your MS Learn, I want to believe that you watched last week and saw how to create your MS Learn. Once you do that, once you have your MS Learn, come and click on this link, log in, and it will land you on completing this week 1, right? And then watch all these videos and go through the interactive demos, and it will help you a lot. The interactive demo is almost like a lab. It's just that they are doing it for you, and you will understand all the click, so that once you have access to your lab, you can just recreate that thing there. So one of these interactive demos is the one we used today, and you can see how it was very clear in creating documents, fingerprinting, and all of that, right? Don't dwell your head too much on some things that are not making sense. Just if it's like understanding how they are doing the regex and all of that. If you are a beginner, it's fine. Skip. Just understand the basics so that you can catch up. For those who are already born in the industry, it will make sense for you to do almost so that you can understand how to begin to use it for your use cases that you are already seeing in your organization. So this is it. So please, by next week class, make me happy. Finish everything that is here. All through, I've done it such a way that as you are clicking on the link, it's taking you straight there so that you learn it. And then when we come next week, we'll be starting on this. All right, so let me take us through publishing while I wait for any question. Okay, let me finish publishing and then we can go to questions. So I clicked on publish, and it's now saying, as you can see, it says choose one sensitivity label that I want to publish. So I click from here, and you can see. So at this point, it will show you all the sensitivity labels that you have, right? And you can see that this one, I said that I wanted to cover file, email, Teams. So this is the sensitivity label I want to publish. right? I've selected it now. So I go to next. It will now ask me, choose the admin units that you like to assign this policy that are created and restrict the policy to specific set of users. So I can restrict this to admins, right? But I don't have, it's not seeing my E5 license. I'll sort this out. What admins means that even within the purview, you can have labels that is not everybody in the team that can administer it. Because again, remember, we're trying to talk about compromise here, right? If there are certain people in your department that are not yet matured, that they are in IT and your information protection team does not automatically give them the right to be able to manage certain kind of labels. So for instance, in the industry where I worked, where we had CEO labels, it wasn't everybody, because if that thing for any reason failed, they needed to know why. So I didn't give it to everybody in the team to be able to manage, right? So this is where you can have those kind of restrictions, where you can say this label is for very sensitive things. So only this level of admins can have access to managing it. And then this is where you now publish it to users. So instead of saying all users, you can, prior to now, have gone to your identity. So for those of you who don't know identity and access management, that's fine. Like I said, if you have built your template, your checklist, one of the things you'll be telling the department that is coming to you is that raise a request for them to create a group of test users for us and put XYZ there. So they'll give you the name of that user group. And when you come here, you would be able to identify the users that you want to. So here is where I will change it to specific users and group. And I can just look for a particular user group that I want to use, just using anyone here, and apply it to. So instead of applying it to all users, and I've applied it to a particular user group, and then what's the policy, right? So users must provide a justification to remove a label or lower its classification. So what I've done is, this one is saying I'm going to enforce it. But the moment the user, I'll still leave the users to decide. So if the user says, this document I'm creating is not confidential, right? It will still say, put a justification, and then the user can say it's not confidential because it requires both members and non-members to do X, Y, Z. I'm just putting, and then I'll say, if I say no, this use case, I don't want people to change the label. It must use that label, right? Here is me saying that they must apply the label to their emails and their documents. So they must. It's not going to. They can't do without it. Here is talking to Fabric. Fabric is data locations. So this is where people like Madame Franca, why they are very interested, right? So they are dealing with data sources where they pull information from. They are using their Power BI to create content and dashboards that can show an organization. Show Madame Franca will create a dash. A client will tell her, create a dashboard for us that shows us all, at a glance. We can see how much we've made and all of that. So in this kind of instance, she can also, as going forward, as part of her requirements, when she then has to say, because this information is sensitive and I want only people in management to be able to see, can you ask your data protection people to create a label for us, right? And in this instance, she'll be able to use those labels. So if that particular label that we're publishing is for this, she'll create this and say Power BI content, and it will allow her to be able to point to where her Power BI sources and customize it. Provide users with a link to a custom help page. So why this is good is you can put your help desk URL here, so that if people encounter issue, they don't have to come out of the page and call it. So from that place, if they click help desk, they can take a screenshot and upload it into your help desk portal and say, oh, when I was trying to use this label, this is the issue that I got as at the end user side. So I always recommend people to do this. Always put your help desk or service desk URL here, so that when people are encountering any issue and at the point where they're trying to use a form of data label, they can just from there see the prompt that says log it to service desk. Default settings, right? So what's the label? This is the label that we're using, and then so here was talking about when is a document, which label is the same one. Here saying when is an email, I'm saying use this label. and then that's it. When is meeting and calendar? I'm just selecting all because of demo. In reality, like I said, each use case you should define. If this particular label is not for meetings and calendar, then don't select anything, leave none. I see. It doesn't mean that for every label it must apply to both documents. You can have a label that was strictly for a particular need. That was why you created that label. So I'm just taking all of this, and then fabric content none. And then what do I want to call this? Anything here. And that's it. You created your first policy, you created your first label, created your first policy, and that's it. Do we have any question? This is where. Sorry. Any questions, guys?
Hello,
Everybody's
can you
quiet.
hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So my question was, okay, from the last clip I watched, you mentioned that then when you'd involve in investigations within companies' affairs, and then an employee is typing something, and then just through the content of their message, you could spot that, okay, this is the person that, and then some of them could get fired through the process. So the reason I'm asking this is, so for example, I'm using a company system at work, and then I'm chatting on WhatsApp. WhatsApp usually would have end-to-end encryption, so it's believed like anything you send within WhatsApp is secure. That's the essence of end-to-end encryption. So then I'm sending a confidential message